Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome for today's webinar. I'm Miller Rajendran from SenseMate AIoT Intelligence. We are delighted to have you all for today's thought-provoking session exploring how AI and IoT and the ecosystem planning are transforming the industries worldwide. So, couple of housekeeping rules. This entire session will be recorded, and this recording will be shared with every single participant of this event. And you can ask any questions during the presentation through the chat in the final end. If the time allows, we are more than happy to onboard you also to the session where you can ask your question directly to our inspiring resource people for the day. Thank you for joining our AIoT webinar series number 3. So this is one of a mega star topic we have today, AI for connected devices, how AI powers smart operations. So far, IoT is just a data-driven environment, and we're just using it for insights and decision-making. Now it's era of AI. So what AI can transform this data into? So we're going to explore in huge companies' perspectives and experts on this industry. Over the next hour, you will be hearing from 4 exceptional speakers, experts who are bringing deep knowledge and industrial world-class experience from world of AIoT, manufacturing, semiconductors, automotive industry, and IT transformation environment. So to guide through today's program, we need a super entrepreneur as a moderator. I'm pleased to introduce our very own moderator, Mr. Ruben Kanapati Pillai. To give a brief about Ruben, you all know Ruben Kanapati Pillai is a Silicon Valley trained technology leader, innovator, and strategist and a serial entrepreneur for over 30 years of global experience across US, Europe, and Asia. He played key roles with over $1 billion startup exit and over 25 US patents, along with 24 international publications. Educated in Stanford University and University of Minnesota, Ruben, known for his first principle of thinking, strategic leadership, and 4Ps frameworks: people, product, and process, and partnership. Having Ruben in this remarkable journey, it's amazing, and it's a pleasure to have you, Ruben, and honor to host this entire event. Ruben, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure because I'm in the other screen. Thank you, Miller, for that kind introduction. Everybody, welcome. And we have SenseMate has been running this kind of webinars for last year and a half. Miller and I have been co-hosting many of them in different verticals. And today we have a very interesting topic which is so close to my heart. I mean, I've been in Silicon Valley in US last 30 plus years, building various companies, various products, and various building. When I thought about this particular topic, I just want to give you some example of one thing which I worked in 1990s. I was working for a company called Rockwell Semiconductor. They were the signal processing experts at that point, and they were building computer modem chips and all that. And that time, they came and asked us to build a digital signal processor. I said, what is the purpose? They wanted to do this edge processing for the digital cell phone, which can do a lot of digital calculation from cameras and all that. I was like that time thinking, why would anyone want a camera on a phone? It was in 1990s. And that particular product which we built, and Samsung used it for the GSM phone, the first generation phones, and we sold millions of it. That's how my journey started into this Silicon Valley. And we are, with all these AI, with all the edge applications, we are all come back to how we can utilize those technology and provide value to the customers. So today's discussion will be focusing on how at the edge, how connected devices, how these ecosystem are creating the value on top of these AI platforms, and how these four of these experts and talk about various aspects of it. And as I start, I will as Miller mentioned, please put your questions in your LinkedIn live or in your Google Meet, and we will be monitoring and answering as we go through. In the meantime, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Paul Wills, principal consultant at Lenovo. Lenovo is a global company doing various things in the edge and AI, as well as computing, and a visiting researcher at Newcastle University's National Edge AI Hub, and founder of AIoT Hub, a UK-based technology community with over 10,000 members. Paul is an authority in AI, IoT, and edge computing, helping global enterprises and public sector organizations harness emerging technology for real-world impact. Today, Paul will speak on the importance of planning the ecosystem for delivery at scale and why it is often become afterthought. So, Paul, please give a brief introduction. What is your journey has been, and then get into this topic of how it is important to build this ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks, Ruben. Very good. Really pleased to have been invited along to join you all and join such a great panel here. My role, my career and how I got here, I started in the telecom, same as you, Ruben, right? I started in telecom. I started late 90s on my journey there. Actual education background was actually in media and multimedia. I was at BT Global Services doing solutions with mobile devices like Blackberries and so on and so forth, and software for that and the software enablement of them, and starting to look at secure solutions. Went to Telstra in Australia for 3 years and did my first, what would be coined now as an IoT project, turning energy off for the Department of Defence in outback areas where they were doing training for the armed forces who kept forgetting to turn the energy off, which cost a fortune. And my journey's evolved from there. For the past 10 years, I have been very much in edge computing and artificial intelligence, working for companies like AD-Link, Intel, prior to Lenovo, and Lenovo since January. So my role and my experience brings together my recognition of actually the requirement for human in the loop in this technology adoption, and thinking about how we've had a number of forecasts for IoT that have not been delivered. We've had massive forecasts for machine to machine prior to that. We just keep coining these phrases, trying to do the same thing, which is connected devices, and artificial intelligence is the big word at the moment. But there's a common issue, which is we go into POC graveyards, which is, I'm going to do a punt here, but my new book that comes out tomorrow, The Human in the Loop, which is available on Amazon and iBooks. What I talk about there is actually the ecosystem that's needed. And it's not just about the technology. In fact, I think we've really advanced and leaped with the technology in regards to the hardware, which I've been very intricate on, like yourself, Ruben, but also on the side of software as well. But the problem is making sure that we have the human collateral, the human resources to be able to deploy at scale. Because what we're doing is we're falling into a bit of a trap of POC graveyard, as I coined the phrase. And, we need to resuscitate that graveyard and hopefully don't turn them into zombies. But we need to be able to enable to take the great innovation that's been there and get it going. But that requires humans. And, I've spent a lot of time working with healthcare, with industrial and manufacturing, supply chain. And there's loads of great little pockets of solutions and technology being adopted. But when it starts to look at how do we scale that, what's often seen and what's been forecasted from the likes of Gartner and McKinsey is that they're trying to leap the chasm rather than cross the chasm. And to cross that chasm, we need to come together and look at the ecosystem. And that ecosystem being the hardware providers, the software providers are working well together, but then helping that education into the integrators. And what I've recognized is there are lots of pockets of experienced businesses that are quite small, but they're very intricate in delivering solutions to the likes of BMW, as an example, from what I've heard, for the likes of Nissan, who's just down the road from me, the likes of the NHS here in the UK. They have their specialist integrators who know their operational technology and understand their IT technology. And what we have here in the world is a lot of IT companies being positioned as the people that are going to be able to deploy at scale. And don't get me wrong, with artificial intelligence adoption, with things being ran from the cloud and data centers, yeah, they can do that. They've got the experience and they're really evolving in that. But when it comes down to more the operational technology at the point and the requirements of data sovereignty, that's where there's a bit of education and support and the tools to help them be able to deliver a camera on a lamppost, as an example, for a smart city, and install, manage, and maintain that. Connecting multiple sensors with a gateway on a production line in a factory like BMW. That's where I'm coming from, and that's the experience that I've got, is that I'm very enthused by seeing great shows like this being done. And actually, it's great to hear about the evolutions of the technology, and the great articulation that you have on your website is superly impressive with the solutions that you've been delivered. But I would love to see is understanding the ecosystem and partners on how to scale that and replicate that to other customers and businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a very interesting point. Actually, it is interesting. Like a few days ago, in Silicon Valley, I work in a company, and we had a meeting with Juniper Networks. Team came and they wanted, because the connectivity and networking side of it, what they are developing is what, Paul, maybe they read your book before you published. What they talked about is they formed a team of a POC team and for artificial intelligence. So we wanted to interested in, they came and presented to us. What you said is absolutely true. What they found was there was so much activity happening with sales engineering and engagement upfront. And then when you go and talk about monetizing that or making the money out of it, it is like a very thin 1%, 2% success rate. They are finding out these POCs taking too long. It is not focused. It is not enabled. And one other thing the Juniper people were talking about is even using AI to do some of them quickly and efficiently. So that way, the success criteria are well defined and all that. So you're absolutely right.
I think history actually helps us if we reflect and take a step back. And, in democratization. So if you look at the PC as an example, I was very fortunate. I had an IT manager, CTO as a father. I had a Commodore 64. Well, I had a Spectrum for my first, then a Commodore 64. We had a Mac 1 for a little while. Came from the office and then went back to the office. But I was very fortunate. Not many people had that, right, in that period. The scale and opportunity and real growth with PC was actually because of a couple of catalysts. One of the catalysts was the democratization to make it easier with the operating system, the Windows operating system, for example, and the copying inspiration from the Apple operating system. But what the additional catalyst to that was the internet as well, and the home internet, and being able to expand rather than just putting discs in and being able to use Word and PowerPoint and play games. It started to connect the world with that, and that created the evolution. But it took a 10-year period plus for that to happen. But the ecosystem was enabled for procurement of the software, getting your computer, getting connected to the internet. The ecosystem started to build out to the point now in the UK, as an example, with British Telecom, you can buy your internet, you can buy your computer, you can buy your gaming, you can buy all the peripherals from one place. And in fact, a huge leap in smartphones, as an example, was one, the resources was required for the network connectivity and the bandwidth. But the other thing was, we had smartphones for nearly a decade before Apple exploded. What did Apple do to enable that explosion? They democratized the experience. They made the operating system smarter and easier. It was beautifully designed. They put in design principles. They created a marketplace so it was easy to access the applications, which hadn't been done before, because with BlackBerry and Windows, you had to buy a license from one place, come back, download the application, put the key in. Awful experience. We didn't think about that journey and the ecosystem of it. And they brought it all together in one, and Android replicated that model, right, with their marketplace and the like as well. And I feel like, especially from the edge perspective, which is where my heart is at, that I honor an opportunity for businesses to be coming together and thinking about how do we build an ecosystem to make it easy. Maybe it's vertical based or whatever it is, but how do we make that ecosystem from the technology point of view, but also the channel and installation side? And that's why I wrote the book, The Human and the Look. AI will not succeed and grow without humans. It needs humans, and we need AI. And creating that ecosystem is exactly what we need to be investing in and building. And rather than trying to jump onto the holy grail of these massive commercial returns too soon, will get lost. And I kind of feel like we got lost with IoT. It's still bubbling along as parts of the wider ecosystem. But we've got an opportunity now to take a step back and really think about that. That's why I'm hugely invested in the National Edge AI Hub, which is led by Newcastle University. This ecosystem that is building out there is absolutely phenomenal. And the reason being is, for a few points, it's actually a triple helix opportunity. And I think that's where we can succeed here in this landscape. Because what we have is, we have education spearheading this, but that's been endorsed by enterprise, and it's been supported by the government. So they've received money from the UKRI, 12, 14 million. That gives them the capability to be able to do research projects, POCs and testing to enterprise and match fund it. So it's 50-50, so the stake in the game for it to succeed by both parties. What then enables is business like Lenovo and so on, that we can actually partner with that and funnel relationships we have to accelerate things. We've got an AI Innovators program here at Lenovo, which is a phenomenal program, working with businesses who are solving problems with solutions with artificial intelligence and predominantly with our edge computing. We can then take that and inform the university with it so they can take it. What the university did, led by Rajiv Ranjan, absolutely phenomenal professor. What that guy did is absolutely amazing. He's orchestrated and got 15 universities across the UK to be part of this. So it's being led by Newcastle, but actually the resources across the whole of the UK. He's now partnered with universities in China, in India, and Australia. And there's now interest in the Middle East as well, because they're seeing this ecosystem that's being created by him. That is absolutely what we need to help drive this acceleration and adoption.
Thanks a lot. I think this is setting up the great baseline for conversation, because we have audience all over the world, and it is so critical to, I remember the talk about world is flat and all those kind of things. Currently, with the communication and AI, with a lot of these technology, it is becoming such that the people from all over the world can contribute as well as harness the value out of it. Thank you very much. And I'm going to move to our next speaker. So I'm pleased to introduce Henrik Floral. He's a senior product marketing director at Alif Semiconductor with over 2 decades of experience in embedded system. Henrik has shaped product definition for some of the most known microcontrollers and developers tools on the market. And actually, he lives in California. His Alif Semiconductor is the same street as where I live, and the company has been in the forefront of able to produce some of these low power edge processing devices, which Henrik will touch on it. So Henrik, please talk about challenges in transitioning from algorithmic, when algorithmic is, people write code based on DSP algorithm and to currently AI-based problem solving for the edge devices, and how ecosystem can mitigate the risk with transitioning from one to other.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ruben, for that introduction, and thank you for having me on this call. It's a very interesting topic, and I think these are some quite interesting times in this space, as it's very rapidly evolving and essentially becoming more capable at solving problems in ways that have not really been possible to do before. I've spent most of my career doing things in the embedded space, both on the software and on the hardware side. And it has gone through quite a few transitions. If I look back at, how we have been evolving the technology and, how we've been enabling solutions just, over the time that I've been active in this field. Microcontrollers used to be, very, very small, deeply embedded devices that did very few things. They'd wake up every once in a while, poke at at some IO line, and then go back to sleep, and then just repeat that. And then as they became more capable, I like to just kind of say that what microcontroller guys really do is that they integrate. That's the core of what they do. They pull in new features into these tiny packages so that people can develop more capable systems. So communication became a thing, and that kind of started the whole IoT type landscape where now you have these devices that can be very close to a data source and that can communicate that data back. Sensor fusion became something that people were working very intently on for a while. Rather than just collecting one value, I can collect values from a number of sensors, and depending on the interplay with these, I can come to more in-depth conclusions about the state of the landscape outside of this device that is doing the data collecting. But the kind of overall use cases have always involved, until now, they've kind of been centered around, I'm collecting data and I'm pushing that data out for it to be more in-depthly processed someplace else. I can do a little bit of local processing, but microcontrollers and those type of deeply embedded devices, they don't necessarily always have the computational horsepower to be able to do all the determinations directly on device, because they're not really designed to be in the tera operations per second when it comes to the compute resources. So it's collecting data, it's pushing the data off, and then waiting for a command to come down based on the data that they collected. So there's a couple of issues with that for some systems. You have a latency component because you have to account for that round trip of the data being transmitted and waiting for the command to come back down. The other thing is you have a power problem, essentially. A lot of devices these days that people are looking to create are more personal in nature. It might be wearable devices. It might be healthcare devices. The kind of common element across them is that they need to be battery powered because they need to be moved with the owner of these devices, and they need to be able to collect data during their day-to-day. And if you constantly always have to transmit all the data that you're collecting to some other platform where the computation will happen, that tends to very dramatically affect the battery life. In most of these systems, a radio being active is going to be the most power-consuming part of the duty cycle. So people started looking into what can we do on device, and this is kind of where that sensor fusion thing came in. What can we do in order to reduce the need to transmit everything? And then, more recently also, as the capture rate of data from these signals and the sensors becoming more advanced and being able to just generate more data, you start running into an issue with just warehousing all the data that's being collected. If you take an example, some kind of connected security camera that is watching a door, that needs to transmit everything that it's recording every day. You have 24 hours worth of video of probably nothing happening in front of that door. It's not very interesting to sift through to see if you can find where something interesting happened. And also, you have to pay to store that data at the end of the day. So you want to try to get to that problem as well. I want to know the thing that was interesting. I don't need to see absolutely everything that happened. And when Alex Semiconductor was founded, these were some of the things that we tried very intently in our architecture to be able to address. Again, going back to what I said, microcontroller companies, they integrate. That's how we solve problems. And we started to see that there is now very capable methods leveraging AI to improve these systems. It's not, I don't like to look at it as, something that is completely revolutionary. It is more of an evolution. It's just that I can do certain thing with algorithmic processing, but if I add an AI component to that, I can do even more. I can make the end application, the end system, just better at performing the tasks. And for this class of devices, microcontrollers in particular, in deeply embedded systems, there are certain use cases that they've had really been struggling with from an algorithmic perspective, simply because of the amount of data that needs to be dealt with. So here we saw a great opportunity. If we can make a device like this not just capable of doing the data collecting and the algorithmic processing, but also add a component where I can leverage hardware acceleration to very efficiently be able to handle deep neural networks, to augment the sensor fusion and the cloud pushing of data that I'm already doing. I can significantly expand the use cases and enable new classes of devices to be created. So that's kind of what we went for. We introduced our first microcontrollers with integrated NPUs to offload the handling of AI models onto dedicated accelerated hardware back in 2021. And now we're seeing more and more of these types of devices come out to the market. And it's, I've been asked a couple of times, now you have one of these and there's a few other companies that are bringing it to the market. What do you think about that? I think it's great. It's very validating for the thesis that this is things that people want to do. And it also, the way that we kind of look at this is that every time you introduce something new like this into these systems, there's going to be a certain amount of hesitancy from the users in adopting it because, does it have staying power? Is it going to be able to deliver the results that I actually need to commercialize my application? Is my boss going to be angry with me in case, this doesn't pan out the way that I think it will? So having more of this type of technology available across the hardware ecosystem, it de-risks things for everyone. And it also makes these type of systems a more interesting target for kind of the software ecosystem to arrive at and develop better solutions for. This is one of the things that, going back to what Paul has said, at the end of the day, for any of this technology to be widely adopted and successful, a strong ecosystem spanning from hardware to software to documentation tools is absolutely key for people to be productive and comfortable with using it.
Yeah, I think you hit it absolutely right. And I live in the other side of the world, which is building data centers, building, solutions and all of those. What we are finding out is the biggest challenge everybody knows is the cost of the GPUs one side, other one is the energy and cost part of it. But they are processing a lot of nonsense. The data is like meaningless data because it was gathered when you gather real time processing. As you said, 90+% of the time is just white noise or something like that. And by filtering out, doing some of the distributed processing what you're talking about, and it reduces the burden on these big $10 billion data centers who was trying to figure out where was that one dot versus you guys easily found out, correct?
Absolutely. There are a lot of use cases that can be very effectively, essentially optimized by having artificial intelligence help filter the data so that you spend more time on the things that are actually interesting. And that's essentially what everybody wants to try to achieve. There are some developer journeys to create these systems that are becoming kind of more and more duplicated. And there's some challenges, of course, that people are running into now as they're starting to be comfortable with the technology. And what we're seeing is, we get asked about AI models very frequently. If I want to do this, does a model exist that can, perform this task, etc. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I'm seeing such a tremendous growth on that side of the ecosystem as, people are developing models and platforms that can do certain things that it's rare that, we become aware of something that is just, completely impossible to undertake. But one thing where we are seeing people having some issues kind of wrapping their head around how do I actually work with this, it usually has to do with the specific context of where they want to deploy their solutions. So essentially, if I have a deep learning network and I need to train that, can't I just take some data, train the model on that data, and then get good results for my end application? And the answer to that is usually probably not, right? Because you're going to have situations where the data that you're looking at using, I'm going to take a silly example here. Say that you're making a system that looks for license plates on cars, and you find a data set full of license plates from cars. But these are pictures that are taken head on the license plate, and you're going to mount your camera up on a pole looking down towards the license plate. So, yes, you have some data, but it's not necessarily the best data for the goal that you're trying to achieve. And then trying to find the right partners and tool sets to work with, either transforming that data to something that better aligns with your end goal, or finding out ways to recreate it yourself. This is becoming, not unlike application development. If you're just writing your algorithms, you have to sit down, and write them. And if you're working with data, some data has to be generated. It's a new part of the process. And figuring out ways to marrying these processes together so you have a very streamlined way of, going through that as you're doing development. That is something that is evolving now, and I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of entities that are jumping in to try to help, just make that as accessible as possible, because it's new for a lot of people on the microcontroller side.
No, absolutely right. I mean, you covered both, what are the capabilities as well as some use cases. Thank you very much, Henrik. And so I'm going to jump to our next speaker, Dr. Ahmad Ebada. Professor of Information and AI Digital Twin Product Manager at BMW and founder and manager of Hopin. Ahmad brings academic research with industrial innovation, especially in AI, digital twins, and smart solutions. Today, Ahmad will present the real deployment of Voice Invoice, AI plus NLP for document automation, IoT integration, and smart screen cloud storage, technical overview of and business impact. So this is an area which is immediate use cases, and that's why we wanted Ahmad to talk about that and elaborate on that, his experience of building this solution.
So thanks, Robin. Hello, everyone. Thank you, and it's a pleasure being with you here. So first of all, I just wanted to give you just background. So I have bachelor, master, and PhD in computer information system. So my knowledge and experience was, and also research was in robotics. Started with AI robotics, and also using sensors, sensor vision, decision level vision, and working with the devices on the hardware, building everything from like modular perspective to build small things, and also and to try to connect the research results, and also compare the results with other like benchmarks and so on. So my background also from my PhD, I was doing my PhD or have done my PhD in healthcare informatics. So I also developed the device, a wearable device for IoT or IoT device to monitor healthcare data. So also the algorithm was based on the edge computing, and also also the others like Henrik and also Paul mentioned the new technologies, how to use them for the purpose, and also implement the solutions with a target, not just sending data to cloud and work based on this data in the future, or do the analysis in like huge data. So basically, I'm a person who really I'm involved in research and the research in the industry, and also ecosystems and startups. So from my side, I try all the time to connect the dots together from research, and how also to get the new innovative solutions also with my research groups, and they bring their innovative ideas to the market, and also how to connect these solutions into industry. So today I just wanted to share with you like a real world like deployment. So I saw the personally at work, and also working with suppliers, supply chains, connecting to managers, and also seeing the pain there with invoices, and connecting the dots between the invoices and orders. So today I will give you just some insights about the solution we built. This solution is based on research. So I started this solution with also my researchers or research groups, and it's called Wise Invoice or Invoice AI. So these solutions use AI and NLP to bring intelligence to routine process. And the routine process here means like business workflow and connect seamlessly or connect the dots with smart systems. Most of the solutions are connected in a way with ERP solutions, and they try to get some insights, integrate Power BI tools to get the insights, and also to keep monitoring and managing the full process. So this is what we call the routine business. But to take the actions and also support accountants and also for daily work, and to support them with monitoring the daily invoices. So we came up with a solution which can support the businesses to automate the process. So the problem we are solving, as I mentioned, it's I assume it's relevant for each industry. So even today, many small businesses and even freelancers handle invoices manually, dealing with scattered PDFs, scanned documents, and Excel sheets. So this result in with many data entry errors, tax miscalculations, delayed processing, and compliance risks. Our goal was bringing automation into the process, intelligence, and the connectivity to make it like part of from the process by understanding the documents and understanding the pain points with monitoring the issues. So what we built is this Wise Invoice. It's a smart invoice processing platform powered by NLP, and it supports the organizations to automatically extract key or metadata from the invoice, like date, amount, sender, tax info. Also support with classifications. So classification for documents by type. Which type is it? Like for invoices, for receipts, for any documents, even the offers from suppliers. How to apply also local tax rules and make it the solution based on the organization rules as well, and format the data for accounting tools that they use. Concept is to scanners and also connect the dots between all the input and the output, inbound and outbound. What we built, first of all, as I mentioned, based on the research. So from research perspective, we found the results we got like very promising, and then we just integrated the solution into market and started with collecting some feedbacks and also trying out the solution with different languages to make the NLPs part of the process, not just something that we say, okay, it's just nice to have as a chatbot or using it as ChatGPT to organize the process. So, having that said, from my perspective, when we talk about business, it's basically a routine stuff, and also the trust also in AI started to grow, and how to connect this to also the researchers and to get their innovative ideas. It's happening in Silicon Valley, and to try to make this also happening everywhere, and supporting the researchers to come up with solutions and to make this solution something small as MVP, and then start to take this to the next level. So this is also my passion, how to make just research ideas to product and come up with a solution. So from what we have done so far, we made the full process, the automation AI workflow with AI agents to connect the operation layers and also support the different like the different departments within the organization. This also as a showcase can be used as like a way forward how to just come up with MVP and use AI tool as a part of the process, not just something nice to use.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. Actually, yesterday I was reading an article about investment in early stage companies. Most of the companies are actually failing because what you said, having those bookkeeping, basic simple bookkeeping of all the receipts, all the receivable, all the payments, all those parts. Because when someone want to invest into a company, they first look for is, do you have some audited version? Most of the time you don't, but at least you have all day-to-day transaction and everything is automated and it is able to validate those kind of things. And that is a simple one end of it. Other end, as you said, mom and pop shops, smaller companies and all that, having to pay for a bookkeeping and all that, yes, the mundane task. I mean, eventually someone has to approve it and review it, but doing all these bookkeeping part of it is, I mean, it resonates very well. I'm going to jump to the last speaker here. I know who's a good friend of mine, Bhupinder, and I have been engaged for more than a year, actually, maybe even longer. Bhupinder is a fractional CTO at GPS 17 Consulting, UK, in the United Kingdom, with 25 years of experience in IT services management and SIAM framework. Bhupinder had led IT transformation for some of the largest global enterprises, and his current focus is integrating AI into service management operation model. This is critical in my opinion. What is happening is a lot of people want to put AI into something, but Bhupinder is coming from the other side where he has been solving problem. Now he is saying how AI can enhance the productivity, enhance the value, enhance for the customer, while solving the problem in a creative way. So today he will speak about agentic AI manufacturing and pharma, IoT devices monitoring, integration into ITSM workflows and optimization. So what we liked about is, after Dr. Ahmed talked about a use case, this is another critical use case where people can go and use AI to do some operational optimization. Bhupinder, please take it from here.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Ruben. And it's been a pleasure knowing you for nearly 18 months. So as you said, my background is in IT outsourcing services, which includes IT service management and SIAM, which is service integration and management, and all of the associated practices that are underneath those umbrellas. And one of the things that these frameworks have taught me is that the key objective for any organization, no matter how big or small it is about revenue generation and revenue protection. And in order to maximize the potential for both of these areas, an organization needs to know, and this is end to end, what their value streams are. So when we say a value stream, so these are the services that they provide to their customers, and these are the services that provide value to their customers. And it's how do these streams need to be monitored and managed? Because and this is where we come into the IoT arena, and I know that Paul mentioned ecosystems and connections. In fact, I've heard the word connections so many times that it kind of it makes me smile, because a lot of people kind of seem to think that an IT ecosystem doesn't really kind of belong with AI or AIoT, and it's something separate, and there's a group somewhere in the ecosystem which is going to take care of it. Well, no, I mean, it's very much in the IT's remit, and they need to do something to bring that into the ITSM fold, so that we have standardized processes and to be smart about it as well. And I know that we've been talking about an explosive. There's figures, billions of devices being deployed, especially IoT devices. So these are sensors, actuators, We have smart machines. In fact, I mean, everything that we can think about, there's smart fridges, there's smart light bulbs, smart buildings, in fact, everything is now potentially available as a smart service. And I take my hats off to all of those innovators who are creating these smart things. But how do you actually manage? And this is my background speaking in terms of, because I've seen so many people fail when they think about supporting these things and managing and monitoring this. It's kind of one of the, oh yes, someone will do it, And once the project reaches a certain status, or there's a gate, we'll just push it across into IT support or IT operations, and they'll just take care of it. But that is the big challenge in terms of how can you manage all of these devices, all of these sensors, all of these things which are intelligent and doing what they need to do. They're helping patients stay alive. They're helping companies like train companies manage safety and compliance in terms of it, making sure that everything is working as it should be. So how do you actually bring all of these things together? And the traditional ITSM platforms and frameworks weren't built for dynamic, distributed IoT and AI environments, but this is where there's an opportunity. So a lot of companies like ServiceNow and BMC, Freshworks, etc. So these companies have realized that they need to have IoT. They need to bring IoT devices and AI, and they need to mix AI-powered monitoring tools with their service management platform. So this is how they're trying to bridge their gap. And I am going to give a Gartner quote because this kind of makes me laugh. They were saying in 2019 that by 2025, 80% of IoT projects would include AI to automate operations and decision making. And I think it's taken a bit. There's still a lot of gaps in this area. But there's a lot happening in here. And I just want to why do we want to bring IoT into the underneath these ITSM and SIAM umbrellas? There's always been a separation. I mean, if you think about IT and you think about IT, but kind of business organization, you got HR, you got R&D, you got finance, you got all these bits and pieces, and they're all in silos. And what we're trying to do, or what I've been trying to get to these service management companies to do, is why can we not have a single pane of glass for IT and OT? And so because what we're looking at is we want to have predictive maintenance. We were talking about nothing to me, and no matter what it is that that belongs to the company, there are assets. People are assets. IT is assets. Documents are assets. So we need to kind of follow a standard process flow, and we need to make sure that if there is an incident or an event that occurs which stops a sensor from working, yes, the sensor, that is a critical piece of hardware. It's a critical component that is helping a medic, it's helping a doctor, it's helping a patient, and we need to make sure that it is working at full efficiency. So how can we make sure that there's predictive maintenance? And that we're also looking at these events, we're capturing these events, and these events are being analyzed. And this is why this is why currently we're failing, is because we don't have anything which connects all of these things through. And in terms of the connection, so it's traditionally we're very good at monitoring servers, PCs, laptops, and everything that is in the network, that is in a data center. But these with IoT devices, they're distributed. They could be anywhere. I have a smart meter, and I remember when smart meters were being rolled out, I think 80% of them failed because they simply hadn't been tested in a way which made them robust, which made them, there's no telemetry that was being gathered about the health of those devices. They're being rolled out because the government had an initiative which says we need to move away from what we have at the moment and we need to put smart meters in. But did they think about what was actually required to monitor and manage these and make sure that they were working all the time? Well, someone might have done that, but it wasn't. It was really an afterthought. And so what we needed to do, in terms of the device operations, the role of AI, and I've heard a lot of wonderful things from the rest of the roundtable speakers. It is about using AI. It's using ML models. It's automating device onboarding so that we know exactly what it's like containerizing those devices. It's making sure that we're taking the health of those devices. And more importantly, when something goes wrong, it's how do we get down to the root cause of that event, of that incident. And this is where AI And I'm going to do a little bit of a marketing spiel for SenseMate here as well, because one of the things that I'm working with the SenseMate on is their DevicePulse.ai platform, which is really which is it's a thought. It wasn't really thought to right through, because it was being built as an isolated IoT monitoring platform. And when we started talking about it, we said, well, how do you make sure that what you're doing is actually connected into you've got this team which is doing all these wonderful things, but it's not really connected anywhere. And you've got this barrier. So we need to kind of get rid of this barrier. How do we make sure that it comes underneath the umbrella of ITSM and SIAM? And the role of AI was to take what was being detected, and converting the sensor logs, converting the data that was being captured about the health of that device, and making it human readable, making sure that it was all of that white noise. It was stripping away all of that white noise, and it was saying, this is what the root cause is, and this is what the actual resolution is. So there's a work plan and a resolution, and then also in terms of the initial piece, simulating and testing fixes before deploying into production. These are the key things that AI and IoT, bringing these two things together, it helps us to standardize. It helps us to actually bring IoT device management and operations into a standard platform and a standard umbrella. Ruben.
Yeah. No, I think you hit it absolutely right. People don't realize the scale when you talk about what the problem the industrial people face and all that. Because I was the other day talking to a lady who was working at App Dynamics, which got acquired by Cisco, and then Splunk got acquired, and they are building these platforms for monitoring and preventive care as well as post part of it. And these are the big enterprises spending $4 billion to $8 billion doing all that. But what you are talking about is it's globally it is needed. Every one of them. I mean, one of the other solution SenseMate has built is monitoring all these medical equipment at the hospital using CCTV camera, and rather than going and building new infrastructure, buying $1 million equipment, use the old equipment, use the new technology at the edge to process the video processing and different things, and connecting that to Alif Semiconductors, the chipset they have built, and you can put all of them together, the low energy cost and reducing amount of data. So I was just glancing through one of the questions came up from the audience. How with all these issues, how these kind of processing are optimizing on the energy consumption and energy part of it. It is exactly what we are talking about here, because by doing a lot of these smart work at the edge, close to the devices, at the connected device level, we are eliminating this 90% white noise. Otherwise, think about this data go through all your 5G network, go to the data center, stored in disk for years and years, because you don't you can't do that. But this thing get processed, shifted, and only relevant important data get moved up to the scheme, as well as a lot of decision making can be done in that level. And so I think you guys all hit it at the right spot. And thank you for your insight. Miller, do we have any other questions we can throw to the audience or to the panelists?
Exactly. So the social media is very interesting. So we have few questions. Mr. Paul already answered one. Maybe it's an elaborative question for answering. So I'm opening up the channel to answer from our audience. Any questions, if you have a couple of minutes, just raise the hand through the hand raise button you can see in the bottom. So I will give you
that. Then he will let you in to come in the panel and ask the question.
If anyone interested to talk.
And there was a question here while we are waiting for it. These days, companies have plenty of data but struggle to turn into useful insights. Can you share a real example from your work where AI turned raw data into foresight that made a big difference in decision or results? I have plenty, but I would like one of the panelists to answer because we have so many of them.
Well, let me pick that one up because I'm working with a company at the moment, and they're looking at contractual data, and they're looking at it's not penalties. It's like they have clauses in there which if the company doesn't actually meet some of the thresholds, then there's a rebate, and no one is actually kind of looking at these contracts because they're so big. So there is now an agentic AI that is being developed, which is now passing through all of these. So it's taken all of that data, stripping away the white noise, and just looking at that clause which says this is the rebate section, and this is what will happen if we hit these triggers, and it's fantastic. It's no one in accounts. So this is one of the accounting things. So no one in accounting would be doing it manually because it's just too much. But a trained AI, it cuts through that noise and it says, this is what we are. This is what you need to give back because you didn't meet some of these conditions, and that's true value.
Yes. Anyone else have anything? So
and one thing, Ruvana, so probably the question, which is I also wonder, the first question where Paul was answered. So the AIoT ecosystem, it's on the fence. We have two to three polls we had in during the presentation for the people's answer. So the answers are still people are wondering whether AI can make transformation in the organization. Other one, it's what exactly you mentioned. People just thinking through running a pilot or a POC and that's it. There's no vision beyond that, how it can be expanding. So Paul, if you can elaborate the answer a little bit, what you have given, that would be really an insight even for us from SenseMate perspective.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, putting it into context from my perspective of a lot of the things that I've worked on has been in the industrial space, some healthcare, and quite often excitement about adopting new technology to be able to demonstrate its value. What's quite quickly identified is with partners and working on these projects that when businesses start to realize, and that can be the supplier as well as the customer, the complexities as you start to integrate, for example, sensors in a factory, the additional considerations you need to have in regards to the impacts of if you're connecting into a system that starts to be infiltrating the control of a system, the liability that you may be carrying as a company supplying that technology. A lot of businesses don't consider that. And then all of a sudden, the POC drops. So from a product mindset, which is my background, is business development, product and go-to-market, is actually when you're starting to plan out these projects, think bigger. Think about those impacts rather than just trying to solve problems with technology, and starting to think about the people, the legal implications, and so on and so forth. So you can validate that and think about actually where do we need to start? Because quite often what I've found is the starting point isn't actually the point that they've been looking to solve the problem with. It's actually been somewhere else. And it's great to hear like the generative types of solutions that Ahmed was talking about before there with the content and how we can be a lot more dynamic with that with using generative AI as an example. They're actually quite quick. They're actually smoother, quicker wins for it and be able to try that out, pre-OC it and run through it. When you start to get more intricate in regards to operational technology, then there are a lot more factors that you need to take into consideration. Doing a smart city, the impacts of actually having AI running and analyzing and looking at things of people walking around, being able to justify and prove that you're not retaining that data, you're contextualizing that data through AI to be able to people count, so on and so forth. You're not looking at faces as an example, right? And sticking to the right legalities around that and the right behaviors.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Paul. So I have one audience answering, so we'll take 2 minutes. to spend time. So Smart City Stay Motor, I'm not sure the exact name. So over to you. Yeah, you can speak now.
Thank you for accepting me. So I'm from South Africa, Cape Town. My question is, and I'd like to ask Ruben this: how do you envision AI getting integrated into developing countries, especially with our lack of infrastructure? Do you see a different model being used for developing countries, or how do you see that?
No, it's very interesting. Actually, I am working with a lot of people in various African countries. By the way, I'm going to be in South Africa, Botswana, in first week of September. I'm visiting my family there because I went to Botswana. That's where I did my high school. But I know where you are from, where you are. And so what is happening is this is very interesting transformation because of various geopolitical as well as information part of it. There is a challenge of AI being mainly done by US, China, and few bigger countries. But what is because of all the latest development, as well as countries finding out, because when you look at the older thing, the oil and the petroleum and all those things, they were controlled by a few nations and all that. So people are finding that the new oil is going to be the data, all the data everybody is creating. So how do you make sure you don't lose that sovereignty? Because I used to work with Oracle as a support team. What they built a great empire of regional clouds, like South America, Asia, Africa, Australia, and all that. What we see is that is going to be a model, and I am working with a company in Brazil. They want to build data centers there, and there is a Rwanda or Kenya. They want to build it there. So what is going to, in my opinion, is going to happen is hopefully the government realizes, just like building power plant, just like building hospital, this is going to be a data center is in the regional level, and a smaller scale is so critical. Once you build that one and provide that services to the local organization, like other day I was talking to somebody who's working on with two countries, I think Nigeria and another country. They have a lot of data, actually. People don't realize it is not digitized, maybe. It has the data on their population from for oncology, cancer side of it, and translating that one into digitizing and then running some models to find out those kind of things. So what my view on this one is, I am very bullish on that. All these nations will build, and over time, the cost of these AI hardware will go down, and where they will own their data and they can train on those. And the greatest thing about is the AI engineers, which SenseMate team is majority in Sri Lanka, and we have seen teams in, as I said, Africa. They are becoming educated online on that. So I am very bullish on them able to utilize that technology and utilize that local data to find solution for local problems. It's not just a global, and then by connecting with others.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ruben.
Thank you, everyone. It's been an honor to listen to everyone today. It's not enough time for this type of discussions, but it's lead us to the closing of today's session. On behalf of our speakers and our moderator Ruben and our organizing team, I would like to thank all of you for joining us, not only live and in our live stream, and it's a very active participant. There are a few unanswered questions yet. We will be reaching out everyone through email with the recordings, and probably we can get some answers from our speakers today through email for your unanswered questions. So have a great day, and we are looking forward to see you at the next webinar. Stay blessed. Thank you so much, everyone. Pleasure to meet you all.